Tyler Reed sat in his cramped workshop, surrounded by engine parts and half-empty coffee cups, when the message came through. He'd been a ship mechanic for 20 years, working the outer stations where nobody important ever went. The kind of places where broken ships limped in and desperate crews paid whatever they could afford. Tyler didn't get rich doing this work, but he got by. Mostly. The contract offer made him sit up straight. Triple his normal rate. He read it again to make sure he wasn't seeing things wrong. Nobody paid triple rate unless something was very, very wrong. The job came from a Veltari shipping company. They needed someone to repair one of their cargo haulers. Simple enough. Except the message mentioned that 7 mechanics had already tried. 7 mechanics had quit within days. The ship was sitting in dock eating up fees going nowhere. The Veltari were getting desperate. Tyler scrolled down and found the reason everyone kept quitting. The Veltari believed the ship was cursed. Haunted by vengeful spirits. According to their reports, tools would disappear. Systems would fail for no reason. Every single mechanic reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, like something was watching them from the shadows. Like something wanted them gone. Tyler didn't believe in ghosts. He'd fixed hundreds of ships. He'd seen weird problems before. Usually they had boring explanations. Faulty sensors. Gas leaks affecting people's brains. Bad wiring causing electromagnetic interference. There was always a logical reason. He checked his account balance. Rent was due in 8 days. He had enough to cover maybe half of it. His last 3 jobs had been small ones. A busted coolant system. A navigation computer that needed recalibration. Nothing that paid well. This Veltari job could cover 3 months of expenses. Maybe more. Tyler sent back his acceptance before he could talk himself out of it. 2 days later, he stood at the docking tube leading to Transport 7. The cargo hauler was massive, built for long-haul runs between distant stations. It hung in the private dock area, away from the busy commercial sections. Quiet. Isolated. The kind of place where you could work without interruptions. Or where you could yell for help and nobody would hear you. Tyler pushed that thought away. He grabbed his toolkit, checked that his scanner was charged and stepped into the docking tube. The airlock at the far end opened with a hiss that sounded almost like breathing. He stepped through. The temperature inside was cold. Not freezing but colder than it should be. His breath misted slightly in the air. The corridor stretched ahead, lit only by emergency lighting that cast everything in deep red. Normal white lights were offline. His footsteps echoed on the metal floor, each sound seeming louder than it should be in the empty ship. Tyler pulled out his scanner and checked the ship's status. Life support was working but inconsistently. Oxygen levels were fine in this section but dropped randomly in others. Power flickered through the systems in patterns that made absolutely no sense. In one corridor, every light blazed at full brightness. In the next section, complete darkness. The ship's main computer responded to some of his commands but completely ignored others, like it was choosing what it wanted to cooperate with. He made his way deeper into the ship, heading for the engine room. His boots clanged on the metal stairs leading down to the lower decks. The sound echoed weirdly like there were multiple sets of footsteps instead of just his. Tyler stopped. The echoes stopped. He started walking again. The echoes returned, but this time they seemed slightly off rhythm. Like someone was walking just behind him, matching his pace but not perfectly. He spun around. The corridor behind him was empty. Just red emergency lights and shadows. Tyler forced himself to keep moving. The engine room was huge, filled with massive drive cores that hummed with power. He ran his scanner over them. Perfect. Every reading was exactly what it should be. The engines were fine. The navigation system was fine. The main computer core was fine. Everything that actually made the ship fly was working perfectly. It was all the small systems that were broken. Interior lights. Doors. Food processors. Water recyclers. Climate control. All the things that made a ship livable. All the things that would drive a crew crazy but wouldn't actually stop the ship from reaching its destination. That was strange. Random failures usually didn't pick and choose like that. Tyler set his toolkit down and opened a wall panel to check the wiring. As soon as his hands touched the circuits, every light in the engine room cut out. Completely black. His headlamp activated automatically, a single beam of white light cutting through the darkness. And in that beam, just for a second, Tyler saw something move at the far end of the room. Something small and fast, disappearing behind the machinery. His heart hammered in his chest. He grabbed a wrench from his kit, holding it like a weapon. The rational part of his brain said it was nothing. A trick of the light. Shadows playing games. But another part of him, the part that still remembered being afraid of the dark as a kid, was screaming at him to run. Tyler stood frozen, wrench in hand, staring into the darkness. The engine cores hummed around him. Somewhere in the ship, metal creaked and settled. And for the first time in his 20-year career, Tyler Reed understood exactly why those other 7 mechanics had quit. Tyler didn't run. He wanted to. Every instinct told him to grab his tools and get off this ship. But he'd never walked away from a job before, and he needed that money. More than that, he needed to know what was happening. 20 years of fixing ships had taught him one important lesson. There was always an explanation. He took a deep breath and moved toward where he'd seen the movement. His headlamp beam cut through the darkness, illuminating dust particles floating in the air. The engine room was silent except for the steady hum of the drive cores. He checked behind machinery, under control panels, inside access corridors. Nothing. Whatever he'd seen was gone. Tyler spent the rest of that day mapping the ship's failures. He'd fix a circuit board in one section, and 30 minutes later a completely different system would fail 3 decks away. It was like playing a game he couldn't win. Every time he solved one problem, 2 more appeared. By the end of the day he was exhausted and no closer to understanding what was wrong. He came back the next morning. And the next. Each day was the same frustrating pattern. He'd trace a power failure to its source, repair it, and then watch as another failure popped up somewhere else. On the 3rd day, while following a particularly stubborn power drain, Tyler noticed something his scanner had missed before. There was a heat signature in cargo hold 3. Faint but definitely there. According to the ship's manifest, that hold was supposed to be empty. It hadn't carried cargo in months. Tyler stood outside the sealed door, staring at his scanner. The heat signature was small. And it was moving. He could call station security. Report an intruder. Let them handle it. That would be the smart thing to do. But something made him hesitate. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the memory of those 7 mechanics who'd run away. Tyler wanted answers. He overrode the door lock. The mechanism groaned, clearly not used in a long time. The door slid open halfway and stuck. Tyler squeezed through the gap into the dark hold. Emergency rations were scattered across the floor. Supply crates had been torn open. Water containers were stacked in the corner. Someone had been living here. Tyler moved slowly, his hand near the emergency beacon on his belt. His headlamp swept across the hold. Behind a stack of crates, 2 large eyes reflected his light. Tyler froze. The eyes blinked and disappeared. He heard a small, frightened sound. Not a growl. Not a threat. A whimper. Tyler slowly raised his hands, palms out. He kept his voice soft and calm, the same tone he used with his brother's nervous dog. Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. Silence. Then, slowly, a small figure emerged from behind the crates. Tyler's breath caught. It was a child. They couldn't have been more than 3 feet tall, with pale blue skin and enormous dark eyes. Their clothes were torn and dirty. In their small hands, they clutched a systems bypass tool that Tyler recognized from his own kit. One of the tools he thought he'd misplaced days ago. The child stared at him with an expression that broke Tyler's heart. Pure terror mixed with exhaustion. This kid was trapped and knew it. Tyler carefully sat down on the floor, making himself smaller and less threatening. He pulled his portable translator from his pocket and set it on the ground between them. The device hummed as it cycled through thousands of language databases, searching for a match. Finally, it locked onto something and beeped. The translator spoke in a soft, musical language. The child's eyes widened slightly. Tyler spoke slowly, letting the device translate. "What's your name?" The child hesitated for a long moment, then whispered something. The translator processed it and displayed on Tyler's screen, "Pip." "I'm Tyler. Are you alone on this ship?" Pip nodded, then shook their head, then looked confused. The translator was struggling with complex ideas. Tyler tried a different question. "Are you supposed to be here?" That answer was crystal clear. Pip's entire body language changed. Fear turned to desperation. They shook their head violently and words poured out in a rush. The translator worked overtime and Tyler's blood ran cold as he understood the story. Pip had been taken. Stolen from a station where they'd been with family. That was months ago. They'd been moved from ship to ship, hidden in cargo holds, kept locked in dark rooms. Nobody explained where they were going. But Pip had overheard enough to know it was somewhere bad. Somewhere they'd never see their family again. This transport ship was supposed to be the final delivery. But Pip had fought back. They'd learned to sabotage systems. Not enough to damage the ship permanently, but enough to keep mechanics busy. Enough to keep the ship grounded. If the ship couldn't fly, it couldn't deliver them to whatever nightmare waited at the destination. The curse wasn't spirits or ghosts. It was a terrified child trying to survive the only way they knew how. Tyler felt anger rising in his chest. Not at Pip. At the people who'd done this. He thought about his own niece back home, how she just turned 8. How she trusted adults to keep her safe. The idea of someone taking her, hurting her, selling her to strangers made him feel sick. He looked at Pip, who was watching him with those huge, frightened eyes, waiting to see what this human would do. Whether he'd be like the others who'd probably found signs of an intruder and reported it to the crew. Or worse. Tyler made his decision in about 2 seconds. He reached into his bag and pulled out the sandwich he'd brought for lunch. He unwrapped it slowly and held it out. Pip stared at the food like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. "When's the last time you ate something decent?" Tyler asked. Pip reached out slowly, grabbed the sandwich and ate like they were starving. Which they probably were. Tyler watched them eat and spoke quietly. "Listen to me, Pip. I'm going to help you. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Pip stopped eating and studied his face. Tyler could see them trying to decide. Trust didn't come easy anymore. Not after what they'd been through. But finally, slowly, Pip nodded. "Good," Tyler said. He pulled out another ration bar from his bag. "First thing, we get you fed properly. Second thing, you're going to show me exactly what you've been doing to sabotage this ship. Because we're not going to stop. We're going to keep this ship grounded until I figure out how to get you somewhere safe." For the first time since Tyler had met them, Pip smiled. It was small and uncertain, but it was real. And Tyler knew he'd just made a choice that would change everything. Tyler established a routine over the next few days. During station business hours, when company monitors might check in, he worked on visible repairs. He'd fix obvious problems, file reports about unexpected complications, and make it look like he was struggling with a genuinely difficult job. At night, after the station quieted down, he'd return to cargo hold 3 with supplies. He brought food first. Real food, not just ration bars. Hot meals from the station cantina that he'd sneak aboard in his tool bag. Pip ate like every meal might be their last, which broke Tyler's heart every single time. He brought blankets next, the thermal kind used in emergency kits. Pip had been sleeping on bare metal floors for months. Then he brought a small data pad loaded with games and videos, anything to help a scared kid feel like a kid again. The Veltari company contacted him on the 4th day, frustrated with his lack of progress. Tyler fed them technical jargon about cascade failures and quantum flux variations, stuff that sounded impressive but meant nothing. They bought it. They'd already invested too much money to pull out now. They authorized another week. During the evenings, Pip showed Tyler their sabotage network. It was actually genius. Small circuit breaks hidden inside wall panels. Bypasses that would redirect power away from non-essential systems. Timer devices cobbled together from spare parts that would trigger failures hours after Pip set them. The work was sophisticated, way beyond what Tyler would expect from a kid. But desperation made people creative. Tyler made a show of fixing the easy stuff while carefully leaving Pip's hidden work untouched. He'd repair a lighting system, then Pip would trigger a door malfunction on the other side of the ship. They worked together like a team, keeping Transport 7 broken enough to stay grounded but not so broken that the company would scrap it entirely. Between their sabotage sessions, Tyler learned more about Pip through the translator. They were Norian, from a small colony world called Kashar in the Outer Reach territories. Pip had been at a trading station with their parent, just a normal day buying supplies, when someone grabbed them. One moment they were looking at toys in a shop window. The next they woke up in a dark cargo container. That was 4 months ago. 4 months of being shuffled between ships and locked rooms. 4 months of being treated like cargo instead of a person. "Why didn't you scream for help?" Tyler asked one night. "Make noise so someone would find you?" Pip's expression changed. They made a gesture that the translator read as helpless frustration. "Other mechanic came. Before you. I made noise. Thought they help." Pip's voice got quieter. "They found me. I showed them I was scared. They got angry. Said I was pest. Said I was stowaway rat. They hit me here." Pip touched their shoulder. "Put me back in dark. Told crew about rat problem in cargo hold. Crew sealed the doors better." Tyler felt sick. Someone had found Pip before him and had done nothing. Worse than nothing. They'd helped the traffickers by securing Pip's prison. He wanted to find that mechanic and have some very strong words with them. But right now, Pip needed him focused on solutions, not revenge. Tyler started using the ship's communication array late at night when station monitoring was minimal. He searched for missing children reports from the Outer Reach. He researched trafficking routes in this sector. He learned more than he wanted to know about how many children disappeared every year and how few were ever found. He left careful, anonymous messages on bulletin boards where desperate families searched for their lost ones. Messages describing a young Norian child, approximately 7 years old by human standards, taken from a trading station 4 months prior. He didn't expect much. The galaxy was huge and finding one missing child seemed impossible. On the 5th night, Tyler got a response that changed everything. The message was encrypted, which immediately made him nervous. It took his data pad 3 minutes to decode it. When it finally opened, the message was brief and direct. I help others like Pip. You're not alone in this. Are you willing to do more than hide one child? The sender identified herself as Rebecca Hale. She worked as a social worker in the core systems, but that was just her day job. Her real work was something else entirely. She was part of a network, she explained. Mechanics like Tyler. Pilots who ran small freight operations. Dock workers. Information brokers. Communications technicians. People scattered across dozens of stations who used their regular jobs as cover to move against trafficking operations. They'd been tracking this particular ring for 8 months. They knew about the Veltari shipping company. They knew about Transport 7. They'd been trying to find a way inside the operation to gather evidence, but it was locked down tight. Until Tyler had accidentally stumbled into the middle of it. Tyler read the message 3 times. He looked over at Pip, who was sleeping curled up in the thermal blankets, finally safe enough to rest deeply. The kid had been through hell and was only alive because they'd been smart and stubborn and lucky. He could walk away after saving Pip. That would be enough. That would be good. He could help this one child get home and then go back to his normal life fixing ships and paying rent and not getting involved in dangerous situations. But Rebecca's message had included a number. 20 children. That's how many were currently in the trafficking pipeline that this network was tracking. 20 kids like Pip, scared and alone, waiting for someone to care enough to help. Tyler thought about that other mechanic who'd found Pip and done nothing. He thought about all the people who must have seen signs that something was wrong but looked the other way because it wasn't their problem. He thought about his niece back home, and how he'd want someone to help her if she ever needed it. The decision wasn't even hard. Tyler typed his response, "Tell me what you need me to do." He hit send before he could second-guess himself. Pip stirred in their sleep, making a small sound. Tyler adjusted their blanket and sat back against the cargo crate. He had no idea what he was getting himself into. He wasn't a hero. He was just a mechanic who fixed things. But maybe that was exactly what this situation needed. Someone who looked at broken things and actually tried to fix them. Starting with fixing a system that let children disappear. Retry. Rebecca's response came within hours. Tyler had expected days of waiting, maybe a week of careful planning. Instead, his data pad buzzed at 3 in the morning with an encrypted video call request. He almost ignored it, worried it might wake Pip, but something told him this was important. He accepted the call and found himself looking at a woman who appeared to be in her 40s, with tired eyes and gray streaking through her dark hair. She sat in what looked like a small office, papers and data pads scattered across the desk behind her. "Tyler Reed," she said. It wasn't a question. She'd already verified who he was. "Thank you for responding. I know this is a lot to take in." "You said there are 20 kids," Tyler said quietly, keeping his voice low so he wouldn't disturb Pip sleeping nearby. "How do you know that number?" Rebecca's expression hardened. "Because we've been tracking this operation for 8 months. We know their routes. We know which ships they use. We know approximately how many children move through their system every quarter. What we don't have is hard evidence. Names. Locations. Proof that would hold up if we brought it to authorities who actually cared enough to do something." Tyler noticed how she said authorities who cared. Like she'd already tried going through official channels and got nowhere. "And you think I can get that proof? You're already inside one of their ships. You have access to their systems. Their manifests. Their communication logs." Rebecca leaned forward. "If you can copy their encrypted files, we have people who can break the encryption. We can find out where these children are going. Who's buying them. The whole network." Tyler felt the weight of what she was asking. "And if I get caught?" Rebecca didn't sugarcoat it. "These people don't hesitate to eliminate problems. You disappear just like those children. I won't lie to you about the risk." Tyler sat with that for a moment. Then he thought about Pip, about the terror in their eyes when they'd first met. About 19 other children going through the same nightmare. "What do I need to do?" Over the next hour, Rebecca introduced him to the rest of the network through secure video feeds. There was Danny Cho, a freight pilot who ran a small shipping operation out of the mid-rim stations. He had a friendly face and an easy smile, but his eyes were sharp. Danny's job was extraction. He moved rescued children to safe locations and helped reunite them with families. Then Lisa Martinez appeared on screen, a communications technician who worked on a major hub station. She monitored encrypted channels, looking for coded language that trafficking operations used. She'd been the one who first identified the Veltari company as suspicious 6 months ago. Next was Calvin Hayes, a former security officer who'd quit his job when he realized his bosses were being paid to look the other way. Now he tracked criminal networks independently, building cases that he'd eventually hand over to the few honest law enforcement officials he'd found. And finally there was Rebecca herself, who coordinated everything. She worked with families searching for missing children, connected the dots between different cases, and made sure rescued kids had somewhere safe to go. "We're not official," Rebecca explained. "No badges. No authority. We're just people who saw something wrong and decided to do something about it. Sometimes that's enough." Tyler looked at each face on his screen. Regular people. A pilot. A technician. An ex-cop. A social worker. And now a mechanic. None of them looked like heroes. They looked like the kind of people you'd pass on a station corridor without a second glance. Which was probably the point. "How long have you been doing this?" Tyler asked. 3 years, Rebecca said. "Started with one child that Danny found locked in a shipping container. We managed to get that kid home. Then we found another. And another. Now we have contacts on 40 different stations. We've helped 62 children so far. 62 lives saved." Tyler tried to imagine that. 62 kids who got to go home because these people cared enough to take risks. "What's the plan for Pip?" Danny spoke up. "My ship arrives at your station in 3 days. I'll dock for routine refueling, nothing suspicious. During the distraction of fuel transfer, you get Pip from Transport 7 to my ship. I'll have them off station and safe before anyone notices." "And Transport 7? Tyler asked. "The moment Pip disappears, someone's going to investigate." "That's where the timing matters," Calvin said. "We need you to copy those encrypted files before Pip leaves. Once we have the data, once Pip is safe, then we move. We hit multiple locations simultaneously. Coordinate with the few law enforcement people we trust. By the time anyone realizes Pip is gone, we'll already be taking down the whole operation." Lisa added, "I'll create a distraction on the station network. Make it look like a system glitch affected multiple ships. Nothing that points specifically to Transport 7. You'll have a window to move Pip during the confusion." It was a solid plan. Multiple moving parts, but that actually made it stronger. If one thing went wrong, the others could still work. Tyler had spent 20 years solving complicated mechanical problems. This wasn't that different. Just higher stakes. 3 days, Tyler said. "That's not much time to copy encrypted files without being noticed." Rebecca nodded. "We know. That's why we're sending you help. Calvin's going to walk you through accessing their secure systems without leaving traces. Lisa will monitor their communication channels and warn you if anyone's paying attention. We'll be with you every step." Tyler looked at Pip again, still sleeping peacefully. 3 days. In 3 days this kid could be on their way home. And 19 others might have a chance at freedom too. "Okay," Tyler said. "Tell me exactly what I need to do." The next 2 days were the most stressful of Tyler's life. During the day he worked on Transport 7 like normal, acting like a frustrated mechanic dealing with impossible problems. At night, with Calvin guiding him through encrypted channels, he accessed the ship's secure data banks. Pip helped. Their small fingers could reach tight spaces Tyler couldn't access. Their knowledge of the ship's systems from months of sabotage made them invaluable. Together, they copied manifests, communication logs, financial records, and routing information. Everything the network needed to build their case. Tyler's hands shook sometimes while he worked. Every sound made him jump. Every footstep on the station corridor outside made his heart race. But he kept going because stopping meant leaving those other children in danger. On the 3rd day, Danny's ship docked at the station right on schedule. Tyler watched through a viewport as the small freighter settled into its berth 3 spots away from Transport 7. Just another trader passing through. Nothing special. Nothing suspicious. Tyler returned to Transport 7 one last time. The ship felt different now, emptier without Pip hiding in cargo hold 3. He spent the day making absolutely sure all the data he'd copied was complete. Every file. Every encrypted message. Every financial transaction that showed money moving through shell companies. He verified it 3 times, then sent everything to Rebecca through channels so encrypted that even he didn't fully understand how they worked. Then he filed his final report with the Veltari company. The ship was unfixable. Something in the core systems had degraded beyond repair. He recommended they scrap the vessel and cut their losses. He kept his tone professional and apologetic, like a mechanic who genuinely tried his best but failed. They weren't happy. The company supervisor called him directly, angry about the wasted time and money. Tyler let the man yell, agreed that yes, it was unfortunate, and accepted half his original payment as a compromise. The Veltari wanted him gone, wanted to forget about their cursed ship, and Tyler was happy to oblige. He walked off Transport 7 for the last time carrying his toolkit and nothing else. To anyone watching, he was just another mechanic who'd quit a difficult job. Nobody suspected that he'd just handed over enough evidence to destroy an entire criminal network. What happened next, Tyler watched from his apartment like everyone else. The news feeds exploded exactly 1 week later. Coordinated raids hit 4 stations simultaneously. Authorities stormed the Veltari company offices on 3 different worlds. Ships were seized, bank accounts frozen, and children were recovered. 17 of them found in cargo holds and locked rooms across multiple vessels. Norian children like Pip. But also Telvari kids with their distinctive silver skin. Huxan children barely old enough to walk. And 2 human children who'd been taken from small colony worlds where nobody important paid attention when families reported them missing. The news showed footage of those children being led to safety, wrapped in blankets, holding hands with social workers and medical staff. Tyler watched every report, scanning each child's face, hoping they'd all find their way home like Pip. The Veltari shipping company collapsed within days. Executives were arrested. The whole operation that had run for 5 years, moving vulnerable children like cargo, was shattered. The news called it a major victory for law enforcement. They interviewed officials who talked about months of careful investigation and complex operations. Tyler's name never appeared anywhere. That was how Rebecca's network protected its people. The official story gave credit to legitimate authorities, the ones who'd actually cared enough to act when presented with evidence. Tyler was just a mechanic who'd walked away from a broken ship. Life went back to normal on the surface. Same cramped apartment. Same workshop filled with parts and tools. Same stream of ships needing repairs. Tyler fixed a mining vessel's environmental system. Replaced power couplings on a transport. Calibrated navigation computers. Regular work. Regular pay. But 6 months after Pip left, Tyler's data pad chimed with a message that made him stop everything he was doing. The message was from Pip. The translator had improved, making the words clearer. Pip was home. Safe. Back with their parent on Kashar. They were going to school now, making friends, learning to laugh again without being afraid. Pip had drawn him a picture using one of those data pad art programs. It showed a human and a small Norian standing in front of a ship, holding hands. Tyler saved that picture and pinned it to his workbench where he'd see it every day. His regular life hadn't changed much, but his secret life had expanded. Once a month, sometimes more, Rebecca would send him information. A ship name. A station location. A situation that needed someone's attention. Jobs where a mechanic could make a difference that had nothing to do with fixing engines. Tyler took those jobs. Not for triple pay. Usually for barely any payment at all. Sometimes he'd just show up at a ship, find what needed finding and report it to the network. Other times he'd spend weeks slowly gathering information while appearing to work on routine repairs. He wasn't alone anymore. The network had grown. Other mechanics had started reaching out after hearing whispered rumors about the guy who'd helped take down the Veltari operation. Nobody used his name, but word spread anyway in the tight community of people who worked the outer stations. Then dock workers joined. Freight inspectors. Station technicians. Regular people who saw things that didn't look right and decided to do something about it. Tyler met some of them in person. There was Kelly Rhodes, a dock supervisor who noticed shipping manifests that didn't match what was actually being loaded. There was Nathan Cross, an older mechanic who'd found a child locked in a ship 3 years ago and had been quietly fighting this fight ever since. There was Jennifer Wu, a young freight inspector who'd lost her own sister to traffickers and had dedicated her life to making sure other families didn't suffer the same loss. They weren't heroes. They were just people who'd decided that looking the other way wasn't acceptable. That someone had to care. That small acts of courage could add up to something bigger. Rebecca kept count. In the year after Pip was rescued, the network had helped 43 more children. 43 lives that would have been destroyed if nobody had cared enough to take a risk. The number kept growing. Tyler received messages from some of them. Short notes from children who'd been rescued, sent through the network's secure channels. A Telvari teenager thanked him for the blanket he'd given them when they were found shivering in a cargo hold. A human boy sent a drawing of Tyler's ship workshop from memory. A Huxan child wrote 3 words in carefully translated text. "You saved me." He kept all of them, printed them out and pinned them around his workbench. On hard days when the work felt overwhelming or the risks seemed too high, he'd look at those messages and remember why this mattered. 1 year after rescuing Pip, Tyler was working late in his shop when his data pad buzzed. Another message from Rebecca. Another situation. Another child who needed help. This time it was a station 3 jumps away. A shipping company with suspicious activity. A job that would take him away from his regular work for at least 2 weeks. Tyler looked at Pip's drawing on his wall. The human and Norian holding hands. He thought about all the other drawings and messages surrounding it. All those lives that had been saved because someone decided to care. He grabbed his toolkit and started packing. He'd gone to Transport 7 planning to fix a cursed ship and earn some money. Instead, he'd discovered something broken that actually mattered. A system that treated children like cargo. A galaxy where vulnerable people disappeared and nobody important cared enough to stop it. Tyler had learned that fixing things wasn't just about engines and power systems. Sometimes it was about fixing broken systems. About standing up when it would be easier to look away. About choosing compassion over comfort. He was just a mechanic. But mechanics knew how to look at complicated problems and find solutions. They knew how to be patient, persistent, and thorough. And sometimes that was exactly what the galaxy needed. Tyler locked his workshop and headed for the transport dock. Somewhere 3 jumps away, a child was waiting for someone to care enough to help. And Tyler Reed was just getting started.